Harald Rokke, Director, Nordic Investment Bank.
So Harald, you're looking at maritime hybrid electric and hydrogen fuel cell propositions all the time. When you're considering financing such projects, where are the blind spots?
Oh, that's where the question comes from. The blind spots are actually, how is the reporting going to take place? How will we be able to visualize the improvement actually happening, or if they're not? So that's the really big difficulty at the time being. So that's why I highlighted also that it is very important transparency, and also to use third-party authentication of actually the results coming through. So this is like auditing your environmental performance the same way that you audit your financial reports.
Industry talks about a financing gap. It would be interesting to hear your perspectives. And also, what do you think about the European Union's so-called European Hydrogen Bank?
I think it's a very, very good initiative. I think it's very important that the authorities and states actually take on the role in this, because when you talk about venture capital, which is actually needed to a certain extent when the technologies are not proven yet, I think there are no commercial party who's able to take that on a standalone basis. We see some examples. For example, Maersk in Denmark are taking on huge responsibility to develop. There are a few other institutions as well, as in Norway, Equinor, they should take on the role. They do to a certain extent. Maybe they could do more. But then again, it lands on a bit the nation of the states and the governments. They need to come forward and put money on the table in order to assure that the development is actually going to happen. I don't think anybody understands the amount of money required to make this move. It's tremendous. It's so big. We haven't seen anything like it for decades.
Would you hazard to put a figure on it?
Oh no, that's absolutely impossible. It's one example is we're participating in the financing of a battery factory in Sweden. And I think the first phase investment totally in that one was approaching like 50 billion Swedish kroners. And then the second phase, it's almost the same level. And it's very clear to me that there's no one player who's able to lift that kind of financial capacity. Nobody has the muscle to do that. I think all the nations need to participate. That means the government needs to be positive if this is really the way we want to go. And I think it is. We have to.
Talking more day to day, can a company get more than one sustainability linked loan based on the same KPIs?
Absolutely. But there's two alternatives there. One, you have a certain project, which in the shipping industry could be a vessel. And then banks would cooperate and figure out what's the value of this ship and how much loans can go onto it. And that would be the limitation for how much KPI-linked loans you could have on that particular object or target, or whatever you would like to call it. That's one, so it's limited to the size of the project or the ship. And then there needs to be some equity on it as well. So there can be a line of different banks, and I think that's more and more common now. Banks tend to work together. We tend to build kind of a financing platform where the general terms and conditions are outlined. If you want to finance a particular company, you need to join in on that particular platform. And then you have some liberty to agree on things that are not part of the platform on a bilateral basis. So that means that you can have a number of loans on the same KPI. If you move away and say that, well, a corporate can have a KPI-linked loan as well on a corporate basis and develop over time, then all the banks normally should join in and use the same KPI, because I think it's important that banks and financial institutions and investors doesn't make it more difficult for the borrowers than what is necessary. And we all seek the same thing. We seek the improvements in sustainability. ESG used to be a word. It still is, I think. Some say that We have changed that with the E, and it's not environment as it used to be, but it's emission. And we see the drive in that direction very, very clear.
Banks will need to collaborate. We see a mission, it's a drive in that direction. All of this points to the Poseidon principles. And one of the questions you fielded was from a delegate who felt it was all very well intentioned, but actually it's flawed.
Yes, I saw that one, and what is very important is that we will be able to measure what is actually taking place in the afterlife. So we do so-called ex post assessments to figure that out. And I think we are also using third-party authors. And it's very important that there's transparency, and that we get in third-party authenticators of the changes in the sustainability, because only with that we can trust what is actually happening and move away from the discussion of if it's fraudulent or not, because that's actually what it's about. There's a lot of greenwashing, green laundering out there. We want to move away from that. And that's the reason why I think that we will get auditing on the sustainability issues just as much as we have on the financial issues going forward.
You speak about the high-level collaboration needed, the financial muscle needed, but aren't you really stymied from the get-go because of the fact you are a bank? By definition, you'll have a conservative, risk-averse outlook, and also the regulatory regime you're governed by. It doesn't really encourage too much risk.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
And then the question that occurs is, who is going to take what roles? And I think banks needs to stay banks. We can take risk. We take, of course, less risk than the equity owners, and we should do. So if you look at financial the hierarchy on the different capital classes or categories, the equity should be lost first, and then we have hybrid capital in between, which is maybe loans or what have you without security, and in the far end you have then what we call senior debt, which is debt that is secured in, for example, the vessels when we talk about shipping, and I think that needs to prevail. We can't change that. Banks needs to be bank. We can take risk, but limited. Somebody else has to take responsibility for the development of the technologies. And that's why I'm saying that we won't interfere in the run on technology, but we will try to support what is happening and be there when somebody decides that, yes, we want to go for ammonia, for example, then we will be there, take responsibility for the ammonia on the technology level, and we will be there as a bank for you, looking also at your credibility in terms of as a company.
Okay. Having given quite a candid assessment of the challenges when it comes to finance and maritime hybrid electric and hydrogen fuel cell projects, what's the good news?
The good news? Challenge is to find enough capital. I think we are closing down on what technologies to choose. Hydrogen is getting up as a very, very clear one. It has its challenges, but then we can convert that into new fuels again. We are getting closer, and I think that we will, in not too long, we will see more and more businesses taking a bet on the different technologies. And we see, I think maybe the one best news that we've seen over the past couple of years is Maersk, the methanol vessels, and I think there's 18 or 20 of them. And I think that's a great step, and they are putting their financial muscles out there to do that. That's the best news, and there's a lot of followers to it. I also think that Norwegian government moving in the direction of giving long-term concessions for the ferries in Norway, being part of the public transport system, that also provides a platform for development of production, large-scale production of these new fuels, as well as building of the vessels that we need.
And finally, here we are at the end of day one of the Maritime Hybrid and Electric Conference. How have you found the event?
Oh, I found it great. Actually, I'm learning so much. being a banker among many engineers and technicians, it's really great. It's very stimulating, and I feel an urge every day to learn more about what I'm actually dealing with. Shipping is one of the sectors I'm busy trying to understand better. There's so many things happening. I really get a grip on a lot of them being here. Although there's a lot of things I don't understand, I guess the crowd understand more than me. So hopefully I was able to bring something in terms of financing as well.